Hello and welcome back to Tabletop Discussions. This week we're going to be looking at something that is kind of very prominent within tabletop games, depending on your DM or depending on the very silly situations that can occur, and especially my games. Character deaths.
Yay! Mortality!
The domain in which I live in.
Not many people really have this problem. I find that I speak to a lot of other people who play D&D or other tabletop games and go, yeah, my character, I've never had a character die. Which I've never heard of that happen before. That's quite interesting. That's quite special. But I have had many situations with character deaths within my games. Sam, you know about this all too well, since you currently hold the highest record of deaths in any campaign that I have, in all of the campaigns that I've run.
I've killed over about 6 characters, I think. Probably more.
You said, I killed them, saying I did it.
I think 7 in total, if not 8.
Maybe more. I could be.
Oh yeah, because there's not just your games. It was also Bill's
Alfie's
game
and
also
Bill's
Alfie's
games.
game. So that's 8, I think.
Yeah, it's a big number.
I said I killed 6. 6 of those were by my fault. 2 of them were by everyone else's fault.
Even then, I don't really know.
I didn't be into this.
Alex, you were the one who blew up the barrel that killed Ireland.
No.
Alex
had nothing to do with that. That was Siobhan
I just
who did
bought
that.
it. I just bought it, okay?
Actually, yeah.
And I gave it to Alfie.
All that Alex did was buy it. It was then Alfie's idea to just go, hey, why don't we grab this barrel and chuck it in there, and then we'll just kill this horrible shark man who's currently got our friend hostage. I'll try and hit the barrel. He missed the barrel, and then Siobhan went, don't worry, I've got a magical dagger that can shoot fire. Hits the barrel and immediately explodes, killing your character, blowing up the arm that the monster had hold of you on, and wiping out one of the other players. Didn't kill him, but knocked him out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it definitely was not Alex. Alex had no part in that. I don't even think Alex knew until it was like, where's the black powder gone?
Yeah, I mean, well, that was the thing, because I think it was everyone blamed me because it was my idea, because I was going to make, weapons with it. But
the weird thing is, it wasn't even your idea to blow it up. That's the weirdest thing. You didn't even bring it up. It's like, hang on a second. Alex bought black powder, didn't they? I was like, yeah. All right, so I'm going to use that.
I mean, we should say to the audience, as you can tell, we're still very salty about this.
I mean, you're still very salty. I love it. I love every second of it.
Salty because I get the blame regardless. I think even, Bill's character blamed me for giving, Alfie the gunpowder. As if I was babysitting Alfie's character. It's like, well, you knew what he was going to do with it. And it's like, no, because we're adults, presumably. But it's like, no, yeah. I just get blamed for that constantly, and then I just then Sam just points at me and goes, you.
Mostly because I must confess, that character kind of worked in that campaign, and the other 2 characters I had really didn't.
That's what hurts the most, I think, about it, because I really liked Ireland. Look, no one's sadder than me, dude. We were trying to save you.
I don't know about that, because I spoke to Bill yesterday, and he actually does say that he really hates that we left it. Because for those of you who don't know, we're talking about a campaign where it's set in the idea that they travel around the seas and they become pirates. And they'd really enjoyed it. The characters were really getting stuck in and started building up relationships. Sam got really bored with the character that he was playing as, so he swapped out one character for another one, Arilyn, who could shapeshift. And they were a gambler, they were a flirt, they were all sorts of different. They were basically just a bard. in many different ways as a stereotype. And
I think I tried to make him like speak in rhyme for some
Yeah, you
reason.
did.
that lasted for about 30 minutes in the 3-hour first session that you started in.
Yeah.
But the thing that was a shame is that when Arlen died and you played as a different character, I was actually saying this to Bill, he was like, to be fair, like, I did actually like Arlen, and he was like, I started to like Red because of the relationship, but I think the thing is that he was telling me is like, I think the reason why I liked almost all of the characters is because of the relationships that were being built. They seemed not only relatively realistic, but also relatively realistic in the story. Like, there was an amazing moment still to this day that is probably one of my favourite, where there is the cyborg samurai Ronin who goes up against this other pirate from this other crew who's a swordswoman, and she has like this special like energy beam sword or whatever. Like, she can do some really crazy stuff, like powered by the sun. And they're 1v1ing each other, and they're like giving each other some incredible like different hits and stuff. And at one point, one of the other crew members says to Bill's character, the captain of the crew, he goes, "Captain, with all due respect, Ronan, we need to help Ronan." And I was like, well, his honor states that he wants to fight this on his own. With all due respect to Ronan, that's stupid. Like, this doesn't make any sense. We're supposed to be pirates. We're supposed to be criminals. What honor is there? And he goes, if it was you, and you wanted to fight someone one-on-one, and you didn't want us to intervene, we wouldn't, because you would not want us to. So therefore, we are going to sit here and wait until he decides that he wants us to help him. If that means that he dies, he dies. But if he does not want us to intervene, we won't. And that moment was, for me, the best moment in all of the entire character moments, because it took let's be honest, the big three characters, the captain and like the strongest out of the crew, but also, to be honest, some of the most emotionally barriered off characters. Like, we had Johnny, and we had Arlen, and we had Karai, the other three characters, and they were a lot more emotional. Like, even though they didn't want to admit some of their emotions, they still, worked very emotionally. The emotion led them to their different things that they do. Whereas the other three, they practically scorched a lot of their emotional bridges. And in this moment, there was this sudden, honor among thieves, if you will, where all three of them suddenly understood from each other's perspectives, and it created this better bond. And it was such a shame, because that was the last session. Not that we knew that at the time, but that was the last session that we ever did. And they were about to fight like a giant jellyfish called an island jellyfish, and we never got to see that. But having character deaths, because I feel like we haven't actually talked about it. It's been 8 minutes and we haven't even gotten into it yet.
Yeah, we need to get. Well, it's just so painful,
The idea of character deaths is very similar to that of video game character deaths. The character dies, and that's it. They can't be brought back. The sheet is pretty much useless. Some people tear up their character sheets. I feel like, to some degree, that is like some psychopathic, like, tier level stuff. However, at the same time, mad respect to any of those who actually would do that. That, like, they
I get it. I mean, I totally get it. Like, there was just like, well, it's not even like, that was sad, because this is the thing, because I never would if it was like a death where, where I was like, when I was really fond of the character and stuff. I was, I would keep. That's why I keep all my sheets, really. Like, also just in case, we ever want to like have a character that's based on it, or like go back to these characters. But sometimes, like, out of frustration and stuff, I would just say, right, this is dead to me forever. Especially if it's like a really daft death, or like, a death that is just definitely final. Like, I've done everything with that character. Like, a lot of the the kiln characters that I made were kind of like that. Where it was just sort of like, yeah, this is over. That it has been killed finally. It's never coming back. Later. you know.
Well, I mean,
And I was like, I get
from
it.
from my perspective, like this is a genuine thing that I've seen, is that like it really depends on how definitive that death is as well. Like if they get like disintegrated or splattered into absolute nothing, it's like there ain't nothing that's bringing me back. Like this is done. But I know one DM who genuinely does this in his home games when when back in the day before before the dreaded lockdown. There was this guy who would take people's character sheets and damage them in ways that based on their deaths. So at one point, someone got like shot. So what he did was he took a pen and stabbed it a few times. Another guy got cut in half, so he tore it in half. One of which was probably my favourite. A bunch of people got hit by a fireball and killed one of the characters. He then took a lighter and burnt the whole thing in front of him.
The whole thing. Now that's too far, man. That's like I would never allow. That's like
apparently it was
that's
like a
insult to
relative
injury.
like spectator sport, and I loved it. But one of my favourite ones, which still to this day I really wanted to do, is there's an idea floating around which is character like not characters but enemies, and you'd put on like little tiny treats, and every time that you beat one of them, whoever killed it gets to eat the treat. So it's like, here's a Smartie, here's a Skittle, here's a little gummy bear, and then like, I kill the gummy bear one. How? And then there was this great thing. Here's the boss. Bush donut. Just a donut.
One problem with that.
What?
One problem with that though, because playing as Rakia, I will get diabetes. Like, that's just it.
Yeah, but then that means that like someone has to work extra hard. Although I tell you what, like, it would be terrible for a player who does have diabetes. And like, but guys, please let me get a kill. I really need my blood sugar to go up just a bit.
No, you have to earn it.
Earn your kills. But that's less of a character death at that point. That's more of a player death thing. But
yes.
But yes, often it means that the character is completely used up, and that's it. They're done. That's it. There are certain situations where a character can be brought back. I know in D&D there are different types of ways to revive or resurrect someone. In this game, it's a lot rarer, but there are certain powers that can break the usual functions of death. Some that can pretty much heal someone just before them. Others that can paradox or rewind death. Others that can just literally resurrect someone or bring them back to life. And there are even powers that allow someone to basically come back from the dead after they've already been killed, or even remove the consequences of death. There's a bundle of different ones. But we've had all sorts of different character deaths. We'd have characters die from falling to their death, splatting. We've had characters exploding. We've had characters just straight up like falling over, cracking their head open, and dying. We've had
that one was very funny.
I mean, can you mention any other deaths but mine?
You're the only one.
Okay, no, I've got another one. You could also be blown up by a large barrel of gunpowder.
Oh, that's still you.
I mean, you can fall. I mean, you can fall to your death. Oh wait.
I've literally
well,
said
you could
that
like
one.
get in. You could get knocked out and fall into your own pocket dimension and never be able to get out
and
again.
never return because you were basically put into a comatose state between life and death, and therefore you can't actually get yourself out. So you're in a horrible liminal space between life and death forever. I'd say one particular death that I can actually remember that isn't actually anything like that is taking on a bunch of guards when you know that your rolls are terrible and having the worst luck, getting hit multiple times, and then stating that like prior to this, stating that like, by the way, my weakness is silver and living wood. So if anything is made out of wood that is not burned or is not scorched or is not basically like practically like nothing. If it's just wood, even if it's chopped up, my character starts melting to the touch of it, like searing. I was like, okay. Gets knocked unconscious and falls face first at like 0 HP or like -1 HP onto a wooden floor. And the only reason why it was wooden floor is not because I was going, everyone has wooden floor. It's because that they were in a bunch of like medieval cabins where the floorboards are almost always going to be wooden. So he immediately gets like taken down by a bunch of these guys, falls to the floor, face first onto the new logs, and just perishes into dust. Another character, which in all honesty, like, this character death was brilliant, is just a character believing that like they absolutely had the utmost confidence in their ability against the firing squad, and attempted to fight back against a bunch of people with automatic weapons. Needless to say, getting gunned down definitely showed that player that was not the right choice.
I've got one, actually.
Go on.
I got the perfect one, actually. Not from our game, but a different game.
Go for it.
One that we're currently in right now. If Coin, if you're listening, this one goes out to you, my friend. Well, basically, we're a bunch of monster hunters in this game. And one of the things that our DM, Coin, is doing in between sessions is like, downtime, where you roll like 3 rolls, and depending on what rolls you get, you could get like extra loot, extra chaining, just all kinds of, it's like little freebies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, yeah,
Sorry.
you know what I'm talking about. And like, the best part is that, usually, you're going to get something like, if you don't get something, you get nothing. Unless you get 3 natural ones. In which case, it's a critical failure on all counts, and you basically, in the downtime, you die for some reason. Now, the chances of that happening is minuscule. And in fact, the player who this happened to even said, like, what are the chances of getting 3 nat ones?
Never say that. Never say that.
Instantly. Instant karma, just 3 nat ones. And it was so funny because we just sort of saw it, and then like and Coin was just sort of like, what's so funny? Because we were all laughing, and he was like, oh. And he basically said, I have no plan. And on the spot, he came up with the reason why this player's character died. I sat on them and killed them. Because the character in question was a shapeshifter who, mainly had an animal form of being a cat. So they basically just could be, any kind of like, just a cat, basically. And they preferred to be in cat form. So while in cat form, they fell asleep on a chair. And me, being a fat-ass molkin, didn't see them, sat on them, instantly killed them.
So, the reason why I find this funny is because this actually reminds me a lot of another one of Sam's deaths. As I said,
Yes.
falling over, cracking your head open and dying. You got a natural 1, fell over, and then it was like, we were joking around like, oh yeah, what if you rolled con? And then you're like, yeah, I can roll con. And then you rolled con without Alfie saying whether or not you should or not. And you get a natural 1, it's like, well, you crack your head open, and then Alfie just turns to me and was like, is this that fatal moments thing? Which is, if people don't know, in the system of Animite Tales, fatal moments is pretty much when you go into it, it's similar to like having a heart attack, being in a fatal situation, something like that, or for instance, having your head cracked open. Something that would basically either instantly kill you, but obviously we have to have it that, you guys are the protagonists. You don't die instantly from this because there is some plausible deniability, like for instance getting shot in the head, so long as there is enough head left. Like decapitation there is no argument for it. Complete evisceration, there is some, but you are going to very quickly die. And the idea is that during that time, you have 3 tokens. Similar to death tokens in D&D, you have fatal moments tokens, or fatal tokens. The idea behind it is that you have 3 rolls to make. Now, if you get a natural 1 during this time, you just instantly die. We changed that later on due to the fact that was a bit bad. So instead, we actually had it that if you get a natural 1, you lose 2 tokens at once rather than just instantaneously die. However, as you got the natural one, second natural one in a row, we said, well, you know what? I mean, look, yes, he has to roll it, but it's only if he gets another natural one, unless, of course, if you're going to be really mean, but, like, to be honest, like, if he gets another natural one, he dies. But what's going to be what are the chance?
You said it.
So
You said it, so it had
so
to
as
happen.
Alfie's just sat there, they're like, so Xanadu, you die. Sam, you're gonna have to come up with a new character.
I remember this very well. I remember this very well because all through that, I was saying very clearly to Sam, as I have many times before, you've actually seen me on stream actually say this, Sam, don't do it. Sam, just take the out. Just Sam, don't do it. You will do. And then like Sam rolls in that one, and I haven't heard him laugh harder since. Like he just had a sort of mad laugh, that came out like.
The thing that still gets me about this.
Can I just say? One of my favorite parts about that was that the reason my character fell and got his head cracked in was because he was trying to help Alex's character stand up.
It was super
and I failed.
It's always my fault, isn't it?
But it was though, Alex.
And I think what happened was you rolled weight and I rolled strength, and I got the natural
heavy.
one, and I felt and like bashed my head in, and then all these other things. I was like, yeah. I mean, I'm not mad about it. Xanadu was a very crap character.
I feel like the other reason
you won't get too well.
I feel like the other reason is just because it is very funny. Now, usually, like this is why we have that system. We learned from that mistake, and we were like, okay, no matter how bad Fatal Moments is, we can't have it that you just instantly die if you get an extra one. We'll just have it that you take 2 death tokens, because you guys are supposed to be protagonists. And although, yes, protagonist does not mean that you are immediately immune to all things and that you can't die, but it is supposed to be that you don't die as easily as other side characters, back characters, and whoever average mows. So, yeah, that was just a thing that we had to learn the hard way. There is another one that actually screams to me before we actually get onto the main part of this, character deaths. I have played as a lot of characters, just like Sam has, that have just inevitably died. I still have not been able to beat Sam's record. However, I have had quite a few. I make a lot of meme characters because as a almost always forever DM, I always end up being that guy who's just like, I kind of like this character, but I want to now move on to another one. Because obviously I don't stick with one character for too long. Once I've gone out of the phase of liking this character, they often disappear into obscurity, or they come back later when I've sort of gotten over the initial, like, sort of come down of that phase. Like I've sort of sobered up to this idea now, and I don't really like it, so I'm just going to sort of leave it. But I will say, character deaths can either be the most hilarious thing or the most heartbreaking. And that's why we're talking about this today. Because in the most recent episode of the Crucible of Avarice campaign, Adrian has been fatally wounded. The character that is up on the screen right now, above our heads, is Adrian B. Crawford, aka the character that Sam plays on our fortnightly Sunday games, and was recently scorched incredibly badly. Now, this is around about the time in the episode where we'll start talking about like the actual game that we play, and also talking about like the discussion that we've just been bringing up. But one of the particular things that I wanted to bring up beforehand was something that is so interesting in storytelling is that when a death means something. Because in a TPK, you pretty much are guaranteed that, okay, either the TPK guarantees that the entire campaign is over and it's time to make a new one, or it guarantees that the story is no longer about these guys and it's about someone else, and maybe even that the story has nothing to do with them anymore. So at that point, it kind of just seems more plausible to end it. Now, I know some DMs don't do this. Like, they go, oh, well, everyone's dead, it doesn't really matter. A new set of adventurers will come up, and maybe they'll find the previous adventure salute, or, find, markings of their previous adventures, or whatever. There are many different ways that you do it. In this campaign, that is possible because it's a worldwide tournament, but I just don't think that everyone would be as invested in those characters anymore.
Nah.
Because we've built up a lot of time with these, and there's a lot of interesting backstory that interweaves with the world. So
Also, we get on together as well. We really do gel as a team. I think I'd have our own thing. It's not just that individually we're good characters. It's all together we're good characters. I think that's why I'm so invested in getting Adrian back because
absolutely.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be the same. I don't think.
However, devil's advocate to this, it's also nice to have at least one character death in a story because it then reminds you that there is that emotional connection towards the players and the characters. Now, if you can get it to where people actually are genuinely fearing for a character's life, that's even better. I know that in a lot of shows, especially if you know that the show has, say, for instance, the main character's name as the title of the show, or even there's 3 sequels and I've seen a poster of it, so I know that this character survives for the next 3 movies. And
I mean, I do know a show that went against that.
Yeah. But my point is that is a very common trope. I'm not saying that it always happens and it never breaks off the beaten path, but that is a very common trope. And that's one of the reasons why I like tabletop games, because that at any twist or turn, you don't actually know who's going to win. I mean, you expect a narrator can set everything up, and it still feels, even if you're okay, and I'm not supposed to win, they're supposed to win. They're supposed to go throughout this journey and do whatever. But there are certain moments that are known as the idiot scenarios where it's okay, unless if they did this, they will be fine, and then they do the one thing that you weren't expecting them, and you're they kind of die now. Or, oh no, something bad happens and you could die. And that for me, I build a lot of characters that are optional bosses or mini bosses. And in Animite Tales set of stuff, mini bosses are usually similar to enemies. They're stronger than enemies, but often they're expected to be taken down by the team rather than by one person. It's not impossible for one person to take them on, but it is a guaranteed difficult time for that to be a thing. Bosses, on the other hand, are usually that you don't often have a lot of enemies with them, if not any, and they have arbitrary health to be able to compensate for the fact that these are the big bads of the end game sort of scenarios. These are going to be strong enough to actually give everyone a challenge, even if everyone can completely trounce them. The challenge is both what they can do and how much health they have. Now, the issue with this was, Adrian, when you took on Simikael, the Angel of Vengeance, you fought a guy who had 110 health more than you did. And that was not the best scenario. Not that obviously you knew that, but at the same time, this guy, I built him to be a challenge for the whole group, or at least a decent portion of the group, because I know some of the group, if they were there, the other fight would be kind of pointless. Cloak. But in that moment, we weren't looking at it as that. We were looking at it as a really interesting character moment. That no, he's insulted my friend. He's insulted my sister. I, as a knight of this queendom, will take on this trespasser of our kindness, and I will challenge him to a duel. And when I win, he will say sorry. He will apologize to Rakia and my sister. And in that moment, we see the exact shape of Adrian's character. And the sad thing is that Adrian didn't win. Adrian lost the fight and gained horrific burns all throughout the abdomen and all the way through from their stomach to their back. They are fatally wounded. and only thanks to a special concoction of meds and chems is your character able to survive for the next couple of days whilst you try and find someone who may or may not exist to help heal you. And with that being said, we have to come to terms with there is a possibility that Adrian might very well die.
No. Not having it.
That's the thing, if you accept that possibility, it means it could happen, which means we can't accept that possibility.
Yeah, that's true. There is no room for failure here.
Well, I look forward to seeing your faces when it does. No.
No. Tell them what happened when I thought that when you trolled me.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just
when you were rolling for things.
Rolling what,
Sam
Alex?
got a nat
We
one.
haven't rolled anything ever.
Don't gaslight me.
Okay, so
yeah, tell him. Tell him.
Sam often has a history, and so do I, where Sam will often bait me. As his DM, he'll bait me and he'll go, "Hey, I want to roll for this," and I'm like, "Sam, it's the end of the session. We're done with rolling. Stop doing that." And it got to a point where it was so bad that I started saying, "Right, if you start rolling for stuff, theoretically, I'm going to start punishing you for whenever a bad roll pops up, because that is like cowardice dice rolling. Like, oh, hang on a sec, I'm just going to see what would happen if I rolled to, just attack one of the other crew members, just to see how hard I could hit them." And then rolls the 20, and it's like, okay, right, I get this pretty good roll. How was the damage like? Okay, can you just tell me, other player, what exactly your resistance is? Okay, so that would kill you, is what you're telling me. And I was just like, I got so fed up with this. And at one point, Sam then took it too far, even further, by having a character get badly knocked out and then put into hospital. And what did you roll for, Sam?
I cannot remember.
It's funny that you say that, because you rolled for, and I quote, brain damage.
Yeah.
To which it then reduced your character's memories by 10 years. So your character was no longer an adult. He was more like a pre-teen in his mind or something.
I mean, to be fair, that character was Presto, and it become something else, something wrong.
Yes, and you made him even worse. This is. I was like, oh, I'm so angry. I'm still mad. It's like, hey, maybe we could have a character mode to develop this. Like, no, roll for brain damage.
So that happened, and then another thing that was honestly just peak perfection is that we've had situations like this before where Sam will roll something, and I'll say, "Sam, you got to stop rolling for this. Just leave it alone. Just back off." Because I've said this to everyone. If anyone tries to roll for stuff without permission, that means that bad stuff is going to happen. And this rule was mostly put in place because that some of the other players did not feel comfortable with the overreaching of the premise behind all of the different roles that you were going for. So then comes this moment. It's just at the end of the session, and we were joking around and saying that our Adrian's Sam's luck was so bad during the fight with Adrian and Simikael, and Sam had made stated claim that it was because that his name was Adrian on his nickname in the Discord server and not the Story Baron when he is a DM for his game. So I was like, I want to test this out as well. So you rolled it. And Alex gets on nervous. It's like, "No, Sam, whatever you're doing, stop rolling. It's like, Alex, it's fine. Like, I'm genuinely curious to see if this is actually a thing. It didn't work because, funny enough, you got a worse roll as the Story Baron than you did as Adrian. But then,
yeah. That's not. Yeah. Sorry.
The next day, it was me, Kane, who was playing as Aquila, and you. Sam, and we were all just chatting, and I said, "Hey, you rolled for some stuff in the boat," and I said that you had 8 hours. I don't mind you rolling for the next 3 because you only rolled 5. And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, however, because that your character is in and out of consciousness, you'd have to roll endurance first, just to see whether or not your character would pass out or, stay awake. So the first 2 rolls were kind of meh, didn't get you anywhere, and then the final one was a natural 1, which technically went to a demodified 0.
That was what got me.
And at that point, we were just like, oh, that's a shame. They're sort of like, nah, never mind. About 5 minutes later, Sam says to me, just to make sure, that natural 1 isn't going to come back to bite me, is it? And I was like, no. It's just, I assured him it was just your character falls asleep. That's it. That's all it is. Nothing on your time limit. Nothing, anything like that. Nothing has changed. You're fine. So then we start to have a little mischievous thought in our heads. What if we were to make the rest of the team believe on Discord that Adrian had actually had a horrible, horrible mishap based on on the natural 1? And so I then said, let's do this. I then wrote just underneath that message, Sam, no! ... And we just waited. About not even 5 minutes later, Alex comes on and sounds like distraught, like, what did you do? Oh, Sam, what did you do? And we are trying not to crack up. We are trying so hard. And Kane, without even missing a beat, just snaps into action and goes, Alex, there's no easy way to say this. You know that time limit that was 3 days? Well, let's just say it's been shortened. No. And then it went from, like, depression immediately to, like, red hot rage and starts screaming at me to retcon it. Calls Adrian an effing idiot and then immediately turns to me and is like, just do it, change it now, like, why aren't you and eventually it goes from, like, this aggression to suddenly, like, this aggressive bargaining, and I was like, I'll quit the entire thing if this goes on. I'm so sick of this shit. And I was just like, calm down, like, and the best part is that Kane then went, unless if we're just joking with you, and actually the truth is that natural 1, all that did was just make Adrian fall asleep. No, I don't believe you. That's no, because Joe is that spiteful, and God, like the radiation coming off from this nuclear explosion.
The thing is, I wasn't just angry at you. I was mostly angry at Sam because I thought he did the roll for brain damage again. That's exactly. Like it. I guess you had the power to change it, and I was just sort of like, just don't you get away from me, Sam. I'm not done with you.
We eventually calmed Alex down and informed Alex that it was in fact just a prank, bruh. Yeah. It was just a joke, but
funny.
That was funny to all 3 of us. It wasn't funny to you, but it was hilarious.
No, you don't understand. This has happened like 3 times with Sam, and I was like, oh no. I cannot let this happen. I cannot let this happen again.
Oh no, fool me 3 times, shame on me. Fool me 4 times, I'm not letting that happen.
It is just like, and it was the fact that it was Adrian as well. I was like, oh come on.
Adrian, no.
Yeah, I actually like Adrian, and it's like, with the other ones, I was like, I like Dago too, but it's like, as soon as this was happening, I was just sort of like, oh, no, okay, I guess it's happening. I guess it's happening now. It's happened, so nothing I can do.
I thought I'd ask this. Like, so obviously, like, there is the possibility that Adrian can die. There's also the possibility that Adrian might be able to get healed. Although so far the story has not really shown any potential possibilities for healing. We know the limitation of Adrian's structure-based healing ability is that it can only break something down and repair it back with the parts that it has, meaning that since all the parts are severely damaged with burns, it does nothing but puts her back together, but it doesn't make the flesh any healthier. So we kind of left that sort of device of, okay, so we know the limitation of Adrian's abilities now. We know that's not going to heal her. We know these drugs are keeping her alive, but they're not healing her, although they should heal things. So we know how bad the injury is. And we've heard that Cloak has an idea, but he hasn't fully explained anything. So nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows if Cloak even knows what he's doing. We're just all accepting it. But on top of that, we also had a couple of other interesting revelations throughout this. Biggest one is, okay, so Felix and Tendra working together.
my enemy.
Any notes that anyone wants to bring up? Anything that anyone wants to talk about?
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. I think it's sort of like, well, the trust has been betrayed, and we still don't know fully, that there's something. Because, well, meta, we know that there's something else on top of this going on, but nobody else knows that yet. But overall, it is sort of like, yeah, okay, fine, you should have told us, but we're not happy about it. Nah.
I just like that Tendra being there is like, oh, so you're helping her win the tournament, are you? It's like, well, just, I guess, it's like, there's no easy way of saying it. There's just no easy way of saying any of it. And obviously, yeah, I do like the whole situation that, like, Rakia is not pleased with her. In many different ways. Although she, at the very beginning when she first appeared, Rakia sort of almost fangirled over her a little, due to the fact that
it was just a friend. It's like, hey, new friend, hey, husk girl.
Yeah, and also
I'm something of a husk myself,
and also the daughter of like a very rich and famous man.
To be fair, the reason we fangirled, even me, so much was because we know Tendra, one of our other games, as the daughter of Legion, which is a different character.
The thing is, you didn't.
That's never been met.
Like, you didn't fangirl.
I did. I said, "Oh, it's Tendra."
Yeah, but Adrian didn't. Is my point. It's like Rakia did.
Oh.
Yeah,
like, Rakia did actually oh, you're so cool, and you're a husk too. Yeah, husk buddies. And then later, I was like, oh, your dad is Dr. Tenkado of Lada, the big famous biologist from Huskonia. Ah! And then that was a really cool moment. And you were just like, I don't care who either of you people are, just leave me alone. And then having the fight between obviously Felix and Rakia and Ten, and then having the whole, oh no, she can steal powers thing, suddenly brought the tone down, and obviously having it as like, we shall meet again, and then obviously having the only other time that Tendra met up with any of you guys before that was when she fought against Cloak during the weapons martial arts matches, and obviously he won. So there is that kind of interesting thing that there doesn't seem to be that much bad blood between them, although you can't quite tell if it's because that neither of them want to get into a fight again, or if it's because that one of them doesn't want to get into another fight again, and the other one is just kind of like, I just want to try to think that match didn't happen.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it could mean either of them. That's the thing. It's just, what's really sort of grinding Rakia's gears, back to the theme of death and stuff, is that ability that Tendra can do can straight up kill Rakia, no problem. Like, or just, severely hurt. There's nothing that Rakia can do against it. So it's like, yeah, I hate you so much, and I would, if given the chance, I probably would, like, kill you. But yeah, I don't want to get on the other end of that again. Like,
yeah, that hurt.
You can actually, yeah, I don't want to do that. It's not worth it at all. But it's like, yeah, which is leading to this sort of resentment, saying like, and not just that as well. It's that also, if I kill Tendra and stuff, then Dr. Ten's going to be super mad, and Felix is going to be put in jeopardy. So it's like, in this whole situation, Rakia's just got her arms crossed, like, I don't like this situation. I feel played.
I liked the moment of having it that Fletcher comes to Rakia's rescue in the social aspect of that, as well as the physical danger aspect of it, and then you've also got the situation of Cloak, who just straight up just goes like, "You do realize, Felix, that the trust has been broken." And then Fletcher, obviously trying to be the fence sitter, is like, "Well, not broken, but damaged." like, oh no, we're still friends, right? Felix.
I mean, Fletcher. I really like Fletcher's character as well, where it's just like trying to keep the social bonds together. Like, I think out of all of us, Fletcher's probably the nicest, as far as we can see. Like, he doesn't even have resentment towards anyone in particular, as yet. They has like that he can easily get revenge on and stuff. So it's like, that we know of. So he's just so nice. It's sort of like trying to reassure the whole group, saying like, yes, this is very not good business, but also, ooh, mister. He just kind of like definitely the older brother of the group, saying like, well, don't do that again. I'll be
That would
watching
be
you.
ever so mean of you, and we wouldn't want to act mean, would we?
I like Fletcher. Fletcher is a underrated character, I think, as well. Because, well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, everybody's got like, really, deep backstory, deep meaning, and like really high stakes. And like Fletcher's just been slowly getting stronger and slowly building up, you know, depth and that. And I don't think he's had like a massive moment yet, but he's gonna have one soon. I think he's just, oh, I love, yeah, I like Fletcher. My Fletcher poster. Just gonna stroke it for a minute.
Him and his giant pole.
Oh.
Okay, we're gonna move on now. So, the fight.
I'm not just saying that because I want to do a Rakia and Fletcher romance. I'm just not. I'm just saying he's a nice character.
He is indeed.
I mean, though.
Yes, go on. Finish your thought.
I mean, that would be kind of cute.
Kind of cute.
Yeah, a Fletcher Racky romance. I think it would legitimately be the first time I've had a romance in one of these games.
Well, a wholesome romance, shall we say, because we had that bad romance in the villains campaign.
Actually, I remember there was cover on What's Her Face.
Oh yes, there was. Well, the cover polycule. Before his untimely death, we just kept referring to it as a polycule because like every woman that he fought or came into contact with just like immediately came on his side and started being like, oh, cover, oh, he's so dreamy.
They did what on his side? Sorry.
I mean, there was the main one, and then the woman he kind of took under his wing as, I think, a child. I think she was like 15, so I kind of hope it didn't go into that kind of territory.
I didn't know she was 15.
Hang on a second.
Who
are we talking
she wasn't
about?
15. I was like,
the envy chick.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe we're starting to see some very dark thoughts of Sam's because, dude, like she was like supposed to be 27 because she
was she?
Yes, she was. She was a vagabond woman. Her life was ruined by someone because she was at the time she was in her early 20s, and her life was ruined by like this one dude. And then 2 years later, she gets the weapon that allows her to kill the man who did that to her. And she eventually turns into Envy of the Blade, Nvidia, the Blade of Envy.
Yeah, I mean, because it was like I kind of saw it as, here's like thread count, the romance. Here's Nvidia, the character I'm kind of bringing under my wing and like teaching right from wrong.
That is not at all how we interpreted it. Like, not even slightly.
I did. Did you think it was a romance thing? It was not. I didn't go for this romance at all.
Sam, I'm worried about you, bro. I
was going for father-daughter thing.
Like
Batman and Robin.
I mean,
Cover and Snake Girl.
Yeah, that's
Dream Team.
Which one? Yeah, best friends. I did not. I did
Not at all.
I did not think it was.
Not even slightly. That goes. We got our wires crossed somewhere because that's not how we interpreted it at all.
To be fair, this is. I feel like we just need one episode where the trope of the tabletop RPG is Sam not listening, like ever, and not paying attention, not remembering, not listening, not paying attention. Sam, I'm going to set you some homework. From now on, whenever anything happens where you are in the room, your character is in the room, you have to write notes. So that then you have notes to remember and look at. Oh, that's so difficult. That's so difficult for you to in-game remember things.
Do I have to remember things that don't matter to me? Like, matter to Adrian?
I'd say, for instance, if you are sitting there and there is a moment where, say, for instance, they go, right, we need to talk. Even if they are talking about something that you don't care about, it is still something that is like, we need to explain something that needs to go on, because if you do this, because this is a genuine legendary moment that has actually gotten you killed 3 times out of your 6. Oh, well, I didn't know that was a thing. Oh, well, I didn't know. Oh, well, I wasn't listening. And that has gotten you killed 3 times minimum. Sam.
Well, those are probably lesser
there are no
characters.
Excuses. There are no excuses.
They weren't lesser characters at the time.
Sam, there are no excuses. There are no excuses. There will never be an excuse. Get better. Don't be sorry. Get better.
I'm not sorry. I've just got a low threshold for things.
Yeah, well, that's what the notepad is for.
You're the only question of ADHD.
I mean,
I did question you this because I have it myself, and I genuinely wondered if you had it.
I mean, sometimes. I mean, there's ADHD and then there's Alzheimer's, Sam. I mean, I do wonder sometimes with you and your attention span and memory. I mean, for goodness sake, this is why I feel like I have to keep putting up baby doors in front of Sam doing things in these games, because I'm like, he's gonna hurt himself.
He is genuinely going to hurt himself at some point, and we're going to be in that situation. I was like, oh man, if only there was some way of like you've actually said this before, like, oh man, if only there was some way that like I could have known about this beforehand. And literally, like, Bill, Kane, Alex were all just screaming like, we did, you are. Like, they were screaming down the microphone, and Alfie is just crying with laughter. Like, he just can't stop. And I am just like, my sides hurt because I'm just laughing so much, because it's like, Sam, this would have been so easily knowable had you have listened. And the worst thing is,
Joe,
your character would have known had you had listened.
Joe, to be fair.
There is no to be fair. There's no excuses.
To be fair,
I don't want to hear your excuses.
All of your characters that have died have also been yelled at. No, don't do that.
In my
That
defense,
is true.
I on purposefully kill my characters off.
No.
Yeah, sure you did. Yeah.
That is not a defense.
Sure.
That is my defense. And I tell you what,
I mean,
I'm not going to say sorry for it. I don't apologise, because I knew exactly what was going to happen.
You're both as bad as each other.
No,
you're both as bad.
No,
I will put the baby door up for you.
At least I know what I'm doing. Bill had said to me on a couple of occasions, he goes, Joe, you have been paying attention. I go, yeah. He goes, so you know why that these guys killed you? I was like, yeah, they were guards, and I was doing something that they didn't like. I thought I'd try it on, and it didn't go according to my plan. Oh well, never mind. Next time, Joe, you do realise that you falling into a random pit was one of 4 possibilities, because that you were out in the middle of the desert, right? Yeah. Well, to be fair, Bill, my character wanted to go and adventure on his own, and I honestly, I did not expect that to happen. I mean, I knew that there was going to be very big, giant death worms. I just didn't realise that those death worms would be so close to the overpowered variety. And but on the bright side, I've learnt now that stay away from death worms. Joe, you know these cultists are actually quite powerful, right? Yeah, but like I didn't really know that they were going to have the hand of God.
No, but you've missed out one that really that pisses me off the most. Actually,
okay, I'm
was
not right.
Masamura's
There
death.
is no.
Yeah,
My
that
defense
does piss
for
me
this
off a lot.
is perfect. My
I know
defense
your
for my character
defense.
death
I know your defense.
is
I think that this is like
perfect.
created later, though.
No,
It's
no,
created
no, no,
later
no,
because
no, that was Bill. I told Bill like on the day. In fact, I even said it like this is my plan. So for those of you who might have seen way back, we did an episode where they were all fighting different opponents, and there was an opponent that they faced at one point called Masamura. It was based off of a character that I played who died in my brother's campaign. And what happened was I played as this samurai guy. He had different. He had this one ability where he could activate other people's powers as long as they were in objects. And he had one katana called the Surgeon's Burden, which could heal people. But there was a 30% chance, based on a D100 or a D10, there was a 30% chance that it would recoil and damage me for 1.5 times damage. Now, I want to point out, I used this a few times and it never recoiled. And then I used it again at the end of the encounter. I was very near death and I just needed to heal myself, and I went, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, the reason why my character would do this is because at the time he kind of had his pride hurt a bit by the fact that he couldn't kill this monster. And he was knocked out most of the rest of the fight. So when he finally got back up and he was able to, give it another go and stuff like that, he was sort of happy. But he was not happy with the fact that an NPC had to come in and save him. So he wanted to heal himself using the sword. He attempted to do so, and it then proceeded to put him into fatal moments as it practically tore him from the inside out. Which then proceeded to have multiple natural ones, multiple failures, and eventually it came to my character's death. And I am unapologetic of that because, look, I knew the score because I made the bloody weapon. I knew it could have killed me, but I was like, no, I'm feeling pretty lucky about this. I've got a 70% chance that I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
egg on my face.
I am all aware of this. Yeah, exactly. And you know what the best part was? The ambulance was right outside. Like it was coming to get you, to heal you. Like and we had to explain to them, oh yeah, did he die of his wounds? Saying, no, we didn't. No, we resurrected him so he could come in. He stabbed himself with his own sword to heal himself.
No, I did not stab myself with my own sword. My guy grabbed the back of the blade because he can activate it on any place on the weapon, and he then put his powers through it, and it then started manipulating his own body. It just so happened that the manipulation was recoil instead, and therefore it burst him like a meat balloon.
Yeah.
But I did not stab myself. I don't know why everyone misremembers this, because the only two people who know what happened is Bill and myself.
I think it's just more funnier, and he might as well have done that because it's like
everyone says it like as if my character did like a Sam, where it's like, oh, don't worry, guys, hang on a second, slice his throat open. Yeah, it's better. I get more wind in this way. Like,
but you did the equivalent of that though. It's just in terms of style. It's like I'll just cut open an airwave, and it's like instead you just chop your entire head off.
But I didn't.
And I said when you did it, I said the minute that you held it, this is the thing, because this had many years ago, and I do wonder if it's just to spite me, because I kept saying please don't use that. You're going to get loads of natural ones. It's going to happen. As I have said to Sam many times before, say, please don't roll for brain damage. Please don't do these rolls. Do not tempt fate, because fate fucking hates you.
So funny though. It's so funny, and I genuinely feel like I understand Sam more and more as it goes on, because I also recently played a character that didn't die but was dead to me. Like, and I was like, I'm done playing this character now. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't fun, so I stopped playing it, and I'm now playing another character. But yeah, so the fight between Simikael and Adrian. Sam, do you want to have any words before we begin this?
The god of the dice decided to screw me over. So hard. So hard. At every level did they screw me over.
Alex?
Well, you see, when you fuck around, you find out.
Oh my gosh. Oh dear. Okay, so my thoughts on the fight was, the dice were not massively in your favor. I mean, the thing is, you say that they screwed you over, but to be fair, I checked back at a lot of those dice rolls. You were getting solidly in the 20s. It's just that I was getting solidly in the 30s.
That's what I mean.
I mean, if anything, they weren't screwing you over. They were just giving me really good rolls. Now, I guarantee you...
To be fair, Joe, if you actually look at them, a lot of them are 7s and less than 10. Because most of my dice rolls were 13s and 10s and 15s. My actual modifier. So it's getting less than 10. Less than 10 on most of my dice. So the dice screwed me over.
Now the thing is,
this is why you don't fuck around.
Now the thing is that like Sam, you say it like as if you had been in that fight and the dice were let's say they were equal. Like, you know, you got roughly the same roundabout rolls. So like you were trading blows and stuff like that. You said like, oh, I could have still taken him on. I still would have won.
Yes.
It's just because now I actually disagree with that, because not only did you have more health, so if you were trading blows, you would both be taking damage. Second to that is he had damage types that you were actually weak to, whereas you didn't have anything that he was necessarily weak to.
Okay, and?
No, I was just saying, like, based on the laws of mathematics, that's how it works.
Well, you have to remember, I could do more damage than him.
Not
as
true,
we saw, he could
on.
do a deep. Well, what was his maximum damage? 30?
Oh, I never got to use his maximum damage.
Okay. Well, the damage he was doing to start off with. Let's say I managed to hit first, and I found out, oh, he's got armor. It's quite defensive. I could have either removed the armor, or removed the armor whenever he got his big buff, which I didn't know. All I thought was, oh, he's bigger now. That didn't mean he had physical resistance.
Yeah.
I found that out as soon as I was able to actually hit him after 5 or 6 rounds of combat.
Yep.
Which means, I could have done more against him if I had more rounds to actually figure things out.
Yep.
I could have used more of my, powers. I could have removed his armor. I could have used, structure on him to do wounds.
Yep.
I could have healed myself.
Now, if the rolls were reversed, I definitely agree with you. Like, if I was getting like 7s, which were getting him up into like the early 20s, but you were getting like 10 aboves, which would be putting you into the mid to late 20s, I would definitely agree. Like, yeah, if you were getting the same kind of rolls that I was, and I was getting the same kind of rolls that you were, then yeah, like if I was getting bad rolls, you were getting good rolls, then yeah. But that's the same argument as like me just saying like, oh, every single roll that I did was terrible and every single roll that you did was good. Obviously, you're going to definitely win. But what I was talking about is that like if they were equally matched rolls where you were either trading blows or it was like, okay, he hits you, then your turn, you hit him. You both attack each other. And then you both hit each other at the same time, stuff like that. Like, I genuinely am under the belief that would not have helped you in any way, shape, or form because of that. The other belief, though, is that I do love the strategy that you tried to pull off. However, you were saying it like, oh, the rolls definitely mattered. Whereas, like, there are other abilities that you could actually have done where, technically, if you had done them at the beginning, like say for instance like had something ready in waiting or had even like attempted some other stuff, rolls sometimes aren't always the factor, which also can help you in certain situations. Sadly, I don't think you have any abilities that like wait for the opponent to do something, like trap abilities, so I say pretty much that argument is pretty much null and void anyway. But those kind of abilities do help.
Again, if I'd managed to hit him once before 6 rounds of combat had happened. Before 6 or like 4 or 5, I think it was like either 4 to 6 rounds of combat had happened. If I'd managed to hit him fucking once, I could have done more strategy. I could have, not played meta. I could have been able to play it as in, oh, Adrian's thinking of this thing now. But I couldn't because the dice roll screwed me over at every bit until. And don't forget the natural 20 you got at the end.
So this is actually... I'm glad that you bring this up now, because I actually wanted to bring up two things. First one was natural 20 and the natural 1. So the natural 20 and the natural 1 was perfect, because it started off by going, okay, natural 1, oh no, that's terrible. And then the entire match was ended with a natural 1 by the same character that got a natural 20, by the same character that got a natural 1 at the very beginning. Like, the first roll they got was a natural 1. The last roll they ever did was a natural 20. That is beautiful. That is absolutely brilliant. Now,
again, Dice God screwed me over at every opportunity.
The reason why I think this was perfect as well, and this is the second thing that I was going to talk about this, is that they were both too perfect. Like, they were too perfectly placed. Because the first one was, funny enough, him trying to use his chemistry to create a gas, because he was going to try and create a gas and then attempt the fire thing. Which is 2 stages, and therefore that means that the first one isn't the attack. The second one is, meaning that if he fails it, it isn't the end of his turn. And also because that, like, nothing happened, you weren't able to react to it. So with that natural 1, that basically ended the turn. He wasn't allowed to use that ability again. He could only use it reactively on the same rotation. He cannot use it again during his turn. And so all I did was I just made him do, like, I think it was like willpower armament, just in case if you did land an attack against him. And then it was like, okay, it's now your turn. You go in for the attack, and then I get the reaction. And in that moment, I was like, okay, he'll react with some air manipulation from the chemistry. So he'll control gas around his hand, hit you, and try and push you back, which, when he got a high enough roll... he not only matched you / got better than you, but it also meant that he could also deal that as damage.
Oh,
didn't matter anyway, because obviously you're chitin. But this then meant that straight away in the first rotation, he knew that you were resistant to physical. The second time that he did that, he tried fire, and he knew that you were resistant to that. So he was just started chipping away at all of your resistances until he started realizing, okay, physical, okay, you're definitely resistant to that. Fire, ooh, okay, that's a nice resistance that you've got there. Lightning, there it is. Bug, meet Zapper.
But you see what I mean as well? Let's say, for instance, Joe, that he wasn't able to react for 6 rounds of combat. Or let's say he did react, but like we traded blows, and let's say I got the first one in, and he got his like third. He would have had to waste 2 rotations attacking me with either wind, which doesn't do anything, or fire, which doesn't do anything. I could have hurt him twice, or at least once.
Yes, however, had you had still damaged him once or twice, the amount of damage that you could do versus the amount of damage that he can deal as well later on, all that would have happened was around about the time that he started getting more serious, would have basically just been, okay, okay, like, you are dealing a lot of damage, right? Okay, it's now time to try and take this a little more seriously, and then moving from point A to point B, and then he then uses his transformation either earlier or at the same time, even if he does use it at the same time, like 2-3 rounds later, it's then that moment of, like, you are still in the same position, you are still going to get hit by these attacks, and let's be honest, had you have had enough health, and then I just rolled, and I still got that natural 20, that would not have been a pleasant experience had I just gone, yeah, okay, well, I'll just base it off of the damage. Because at that point, if it was based off the damage, you and I both know that even if you had half of your health, you would not have been able to take it. Because it was worth equal to over half of your health. Just by a little bit, but still.
Yeah. That's what I mean as well. See, if you got a natural 20, that's what you're saying. If the dice gods hadn't screwed me.
So some might say, Sam, that you are also having it that the dice gods screw me every now and again whenever you get a natural 1. Or a natural 20. Whenever you get a natural 20, whenever you... No, I don't ever see it like that. I never see it like that.
Yeah,
the only time
because you're the storyteller. You're there to make us...
No, the only time that I think that the dice have ever screwed me over, and this is a genuine belief, this is as a storyteller, not as a player, because I feel the same way as a player. The only time that I ever feel that way as a player, no, as a narrator, is if I'm doing it, and the character that I've set up as like they have some pretty decent strength. They are pretty usable, pretty and I set them up as this big challenge, and like there's a lot of reward behind this guy, and they just keep getting natural ones, really bad rolls, and you guys keep just getting overly lucky rolls, and just I can do nothing at this point, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to read a book. Let me know when you're finished, like emptying the load of dice of damage that you're dealing to them. Now I do understand where you're coming from, because Alex can attest. I have been on the rearing end of that, where I've played characters, especially in Bill's campaign, where I will try to do tons of things in combat and they'll all fail. And after a while, it's like, my character might as well not have even been there, because they didn't get to land an attack, their abilities didn't work, and anything that they tried didn't actually do anything. Like, there was no damage dealt, no effects dealt, no anything dealt. My character wasn't even dealt damage, so it wasn't like as if I was being distracting. And it just meant that thing of like, this is the 14th roll today that has been under a 10, and my modifier is not very high. This is not great. This is not fun. So I do see what you mean. Like, I definitely agree with you. The dice definitely screwed you over, but I will not say that you were in a situation where just because of the dice you lost. Like, I still am under the belief that you could have still lost, even if the dice were a little bit more in your favour. Not if they were in anywhere near as much of a favour as that, because obviously that was crazy.
Can we agree on one thing, though?
What?
That at least would have been a fairer fight. Like a fair fight, because we had roughly the same modifiers.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not arguing that. It would have been a way fairer fight had we had traded blows and actually had some decent rolls either side, rather than me just keep getting 31s and 34s all over. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. I just realised
we should ask our unbiased moderator. Considering you were on one side of the field, I was on the other.
We already know that they aren't unbiased.
But unbiased by us complaining about this. I'm just curious. Alex, what do you think of the fight?
It was intense. And I mean, because on one hand, I am looking, forward to this being a big character building moment for everybody. Don't get me wrong. I can see this is good possibility, of stories going on for this, but that was a solid gold ass beating, and it was painful to watch. And I was just sort of saying, well, I mean, me. I was like, I am genuinely against, players put themselves in jeopardy like that. I knew that, yes, it's in your character. Your character definitely would challenge a fight for their honor, but I'm just thinking this is a bad idea. This guy has probably got a lot. This guy is an angel. He's probably got a lot of power behind him, and even at our levels, he's going to be really bad. And yeah, I wasn't wrong. It was dice we're not going to be in our favor, and it's going to be a bad worst case scenario. So yeah, not happy with it. Unhappy generally. On a story level, I am happy with it. On a down level, I'm not happy with it.
I'd say it wasn't it wasn't the victory I wanted, but it was definitely the ending I wanted. I didn't like how unscathed he came out of that, but I am happy with the injury that Adrian got. The reason for this is because that it was actually a pre-planned thing, that I was hoping that it would either be an attack that dealt enough to deal an injury, or it would be that I would have to use it for an injury. And after a while, I was like, nah, this will be for an injury. But had you had enough health, I was going to say, okay, no, I'm going to just go for the straight up damage. And I was hoping for this type of injury. for a multitude of different reasons, but the biggest one was because it was this whole thing of like, okay, can we get it that a character, is damaged in such a way that their scars are going to keep with them for at least a long time, or and it doesn't have to be physical ones. Like, again, we might find someone who can heal you good as new as if nothing ever happened, but who's to say that that won't be an injury that technically takes away from something of Adrian's? Like, say for instance, it might very well harbor ill will in that situation, or even it just might very well make Adrian realize, like,
holy crap, I'm a failure at everything.
Or even
I've lost to 5 people and died twice.
Have
you still here
twice?
though?
I mean, I've almost died twice. I've died once.
I know that you've died once, yeah.
Actually, no, I died a couple of times didn't I die like once in the tournament?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
Didn't I die another time during the tournament, like the actual fight scenes?
I guess so, but I wouldn't count those because you get like revived. But I guess so.
Yeah, but still, I've lost many times and I've almost died. It's like, damn. I talk a big game, but I lose a lot.
But I still think that that's one of the things that makes your character so interesting. That your character isn't immune to everything. That your character has weaknesses. That your character is able to feel pain and feel weakness and eventually feel gaps in strength that they need to start filling. And I just really love that about these scenarios. Like, this was something that I wanted for someone, because at one point I was like, okay, I really want someone to be injured in a way where fighting is just either made impossible or made so damn difficult that it's like, no, we have to get this fixed. And funnily enough, I didn't think this until ironically enough, after Rakia lost her arm. And I was like, nah, that's not good enough, because you could always get like a replacement. But like, what is something so difficult that is like a very difficult replacement? And I'm thinking either a leg or a huge chunk out of someone's like organary functions. Even eyes. Like, I was thinking like, eyes, like eyesight, that would actually be a big one. But yeah, so I mean, like, I'm glad that the way that it worked out, because it's now this moment of Adrian, who has quite literally been like their wall and their paragon, is now suddenly like unable to stand on their own 2 feet and is being pushed around by the very sister that she promised to protect. So I do find it very interesting. I do love it that we see this vulnerability in this character. And I am very much looking forward to seeing what you guys get up to next. I am hoping that your next your next session will be the session that heals Adrian. But if not, well, let's hope that Adrian keeps on ticking before that time goes down.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say. Well, yeah, it sounds just best you guys say. Has Adrian actually won any decent fights? Like, well, yeah, I mean, against the Green Flame, like you only like didn't kill him because he just cheated his way to
I don't know if I'd count that. I also don't think that Adrian would personally count it. Like, Adrian would think that he didn't win, but neither did she. I mean, technically, you could even argue that he did win, because he got a draw. It was more like he did win because your goal was to kill him. He escaped with his life. So it's that thing of like, he technically did win, because that even though that you were about to win, because let's be honest, had either of you hit each other, you would have definitely KO'd each other. But it was still that thing of like, thanks to the fact that he was able to escape, he gets to run free, and you are still left as the only Crawford, and the Crawford's family killer is still on the loose.
Yeah, but Jessica have like even most
tournament.
Good.
Yeah, most of them where I had to throw them out. Remember, a lot of them I couldn't actually win against because they were either too powerful or they threw me out. Even the guy in the park that fought that like tried to fight me was like a very kind of weak guy. I knocked out in one punch.
That's only because you're very strong, though.
Yeah, but like, there's not been like a decent one-on-one fight that's lasted more than 2 rounds.
Oh
That's
no,
been
there was
against
that
a
guy.
human.
There was that copying guy, which literally, we helped by
Oh yeah,
just
that was the whole
cheering you on.
group.
That was the
whole
yeah. You're
group.
thinking of one-on-one, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, there's not been a single fight I could think of where Adrian's like, yeah, I've won a fight. It's all been like,
Dimitri.
yeah, I won a fight with friends. Dimitri, which one was Dimitri again?
Dimitri was the special gas pyrokinetic, like the special like smog pyrokinetic, where he creates like explosive smoke that when it touches you it burns, and then you can ignite it to deal more fire damage.
I don't remember that fight.
It was the one that you debuted after the time skip. You know, when
yeah,
you
the old
first
guy
got
in the
your sword.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I meant. But that was like a one and done punch fight. Or was it? It was like I punch him and he's knocked out.
You hit him twice. I wouldn't say that that's a one and done fight, but yeah. Fair enough. But either
that
way,
was like, oh.
And then again, I don't think he was actually anywhere near your capabilities of health
Oh,
at the time.
he did no damage to me because I didn't have like. There's not been a fighter that Adrian has fought that's been like, yes, that was a good fight, and I won.
I'm trying to think if there are any that we've had. I mean,
No,
I know that.
Well, that's one-on-one, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's mostly been Adrian either helping out with others, finding people that are way below her weight class, or getting her ass kicked.
There is no middle ground.
Yeah, that's what I mean by Adrian. Out of all the people who should have done this, I don't think Adrian should have done it because she's already been killed once and lost many times.
Again, it's in your character. It's like, well, this time will be the one.
I feel like this is the perfect character for it to happen, though, because if you think about it, that like neither you nor Rakia are perfect. Whereas, funny enough, we've seen, although that Cloak has been knocked out once or twice, it has been mostly due to some odd circumstances. Like, for instance, him being dropped from a 10-meter story situation, and then basically face planting against the ground and immediately getting knocked out from a broken nose. Whereas, like in another situation, he went up against people in the hand-to-hand and the weapons, mixed weapons martial arts, and never lost, including up against Tendra. But then you see stuff like Fletcher and Felix. Felix has lost and won some incredible fights. Some of my favourite ones is the fact that, like, when he didn't have his powers, the fact that he went up against Dry, a guy who 3 of you with powers struggled against, and he was just like, come here, you, and punched him right in the back of the head and knocked his ass out. Then later on, single-handedly beat Hai, his sister, when he reactivated his powers for the first time in a day. Or should I say in multiple sessions. So, I mean, I understand where you're going with this. Like, there are a lot of fights that Adrian has done well in, but there aren't any 1v1s or 1v multitudes where Adrian has done well, where they weren't equal to or greater than her original capabilities.
To be honest, even in quite a lot of the multiples, Adrian was like the one with I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was like Adrian failed the the initiative, and she's last in place, so she spent her first couple of moves just transforming, and then the fight was over.
Yeah,
I think she got one. I think she tried to punch once. I think she punched someone else by accident, and then the fight was over.
So, I mean, this is another reason as to why I bring it up, why it has to be Adrian, because I feel like this would be the perfect moment for Adrian to go from this moment of there's this, I go from pray and I don't die to suddenly there ain't no one I can't fight, and we're waiting.
To be honest, it's more like, I can protect people too. God, I'm a failure. I should give this job to someone else. I really am not good at this, am I?
It's funny you say that, Sam. You might very well have to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Adrian knows. I'm thinking the way I view it is Adrian just kind of like, I'm a failure.
I look forward to the role
Let's be
play.
honest. I think that's probably how I'm going to play it. Of I'm a failure.
No.
Yes.
No, well, I'm going to have my character moment with you to stop that self-loathing shit from happening. Because no.
Either way,
I mean,
we
what
hope to
else
see
can you
some.
give to say that it's not true?
We hope to
I
see
wish
some
for that.
improvements. We hope to see some ways that we can deal with this, and we definitely hope to see less deaths in the futures of our tabletop experience. But thank you very much for everyone who is listening. If you would like to hear more of our tabletop discussions, obviously we'll have more of them as we go on in the Animite Tales YouTube channel. Thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful night.
Bye!
See you in the future.
And as always, ciao ciao for now.